next discussion will be facilitated by Mr. George Prinsloo, an account executive at DocFusion.
So I represent a company called DocFusion. We are proudly South African. We've been around since 2007 was the first line of code that we wrote. We predominantly play in the BFSI space, banking, financial services, and insurance. I would say we probably have about 90% market share in the banking space in South Africa locally, probably also about 90% market share in the insurance industry as well. We do have presence in Sandton, just around the corner here, and also in Stellenbosch, in Technopark, close to Capitec's buildings. We've also got an office in the UK, but we've got customers all over the world. I think the topic that I want to cover today is actually quite boring. It's not necessarily around payments or any of these things, but it's a very, very important topic because it effectively is the lifeblood of the organization. This is the reality of the situation. So obviously we've spoken a lot about digital transformation and AI and all of these things, digital processes, customer experience, how to actually engage your customers digitally. The challenge that we face still is if you look at this, 1975 was the first ever word processor. It was projected that by 1990s, most record handling will be entirely electronic, and by 2024, majority of business processes actually still remain paper and email-based. So it's quite staggering to think that we all have this digital sort of transformation drive, but if your processes and your interactions with your internal and external stakeholders are still manual and paper-based, then it's difficult to call you a truly digitally native organization. As I said, let's talk about documents quickly. This statement here at the bottom, documents in BFSI are not just paper. They are the business rules, the compliance backbone, the customer stakeholder touchpoint, and the record of trust all in one. Documents are not going anywhere. Doesn't matter how digital your process is. The document is the mechanism in which the data comes from the source system, and that document transports that data to the stakeholder and back into the source system. So it's not going anywhere. It is always going to be important for especially being a bank. You guys know that you're one of the most heavily regulated industries in the world, and it's just what it is. A contract, a loan agreement, KYC forms, non-disclosure agreements are all legally binding, and it's effectively the way in which the process is governed so that you comply to FICA and POPIA and all of the other regulatory frameworks, and obviously version control and auditing. So you have to go through your audits. So documents are very, very, very prevalent in that space. Risk mitigation, well-structured documents reduce legal and financial risk. Obviously, signed agreement and T's and C's protect the banks from disputes, so non-repudiation in a court of law. And then accurate documentation ensures enforceability of these contracts. Trust and customer confidence, clear, accurate, and timely documentation builds trust. And if you have poor and inconsistent documents, it damages your reputation and your customer satisfaction, and it effectively then exposes the legal and the risk as well. Operational efficiency goes without saying. Data integrity is obviously very important. Because you've got your documents, you capture the critical customer and transactional data from your source system, feeds into the documents, and goes back into the organization, into your risk systems, into your CRM systems, ERP system, financial systems, core enterprise service buses, databases, data lakes. So consistency of data is obviously very important. And then customer experience. Every bank wants to serve their customers in an efficient way, give them a good customer experience, and then audit and record keeping as well. So it's a simple slide, but effectively most organizations, so as I said, we've been doing this since 2007, and we work very regularly in the banks and the insurance organizations. What we've seen, the trend actually is that most organizations only focus on the document management and storage component. So how do we actually make sure that we've got all of our data and our documentation sort of classified and indexed and available, etc., and managed in a way that we obviously protect our data as well, or our customers' data. So there's massive document management strategy, so the actual document management system. So you're obviously talking about SharePoint and Highland OnBase, and you're talking about IBM FileNet and all of these very, very, let's call it, efficient document management systems. But millions of rands are spent on the document storage and actually how those documents are kept within the organization. The challenge that we see is that not many people actually think about where the document originates from, because it just automatically originates, right? It originates from Salesforce, it originates from SAP, it originates from Sage, or whatever your enterprise core service bus is, or whatever the case may be, right? So that's where it originates. But therein lies the challenge. So I'll use an example of myself. So I've got, obviously, a cell phone contract, as everybody else has, with a very well-known service provider in South Africa specifically. I get an email from them every month. They send me a mail. There's 3 attachments in that email, which is the itemized billing, it's my tax invoice, and effectively my statement. My address is different on every single one of those documents. My personal address. One of the documents, I've never even lived at that address. I don't know where they got that address from, but it's there. Now imagine I take the document and I go into a bank and I go and apply for finance, and I can actually take that document and I will be FICA'd against that document because it's a proof of residence. But it's not accurate, it's not my address. It irritates the crap out of me, sorry, but I've even phoned these oaks, listen, let's change the address, this, that, the other, but every month the mail comes through. And the reason for that is because these documents originate in different systems, and then they populate it into one email that's then sent to me. Nobody actually looks at how do we actually control and let's call it consolidate the generation of those documents from source system. So that's where DocFusion comes in, and what we currently do for most of the banks and the insurance companies is we kind of a digital overlay between your line of business systems on the left. That could be a legacy system, a CRM system, ERP system, doesn't really matter. We then effectively use this digital overlay that we form with a centralized template repository. There's also a massive difference between a document and a template, right? So that's also something we focus on. So we're on the templating side. So we're central template repository, and then from there, we then have the workflow capability. So once we've gotten the data, and it's integrated into our template repository, we do the template authoring, the document gets dynamically and intelligently generated, and then it goes through a process. That can go, it can be pushed to a customer self-service portal, the document can be sent out to a mobile device, via email, it can be sent in an SMS link, in a WhatsApp, whatever the workflow looks like for that specific process, whether it's a home loan application or a vehicle and asset finance application or an insurance policy that you're taking out. So we're effectively sitting in the middle. We don't go, there's no rip and replace of your existing systems. We don't displace any of your core banking systems or anything like that, or your claims and policy management system. We effectively sit on top of it. So this is what DocFusion is in 3 easy steps, and I've already touched on this. So first and foremost, you've got to start with your template. Create the template in your template repository, your DocFusion template repository. You connect your data connects in via API. Within the DocFusion workbench, you've got a data pane on the right-hand side where all your data fields are available from your multiple systems. So everything that you've got available, if there's a first name, a last name, an address, whatever field within your system, that will reflect on the right-hand side in the pane within the workbench, and you are then able to just drag and drop those on. So as you can see, you can also pull in data from multiple systems. OData connectors, API, you can pull in from Salesforce, you can pull in from a digital signature provider, you can pull in from SharePoint, Microsoft Dynamics, doesn't really matter to us. We can integrate with all of them. And then we take care of the generation and the formatting and the output of that document. So there's 4 key areas here. The template authoring and the template management component is, let's call that prior to the actual generation, and then the document assembly and the post-processing effectively happens once we've received the instruction from the source system. The data can either be pushed from the source system to us, or we can pull the data from the source system. Many enterprise organizations prefer us to actually receive the data from the source system, but we can do either or. So if I go into template authoring quickly, this is what makes DocFusion different. Currently, the organizations are sitting, because there's multiple systems. If you need to go and make a change in Salesforce, you need somebody that has Apex coding skills or development skills in that. SAP, it's ABAP. Sage, it's whatever, right? So there's still a heavy dependency on your development team and on IT. What we do is, if I can give you an example, a very large bank that we've been partnered with since 2008, I think it is, they generate about 900 million documents through our platform annually. There's a team of 4 people managing their template repository that's taking care of all their content generation. This exact same bank rebranded from another bank. That bank exited the country, and then the other bank stayed, so they rebranded from that branding to this branding in 3 days. Normally, that's a 6 or a 7-month project. You can imagine 900 million documents, and that's literally because of, and the team of people that are sitting there, the simplicity of DocFusion, these are not IT people, they're business analysts. They've just got a very good understanding of Word. That's what it comes down to. Because the template authoring is a Word-based experience. Dynamic content field, so as I said, there's automated data population into your template based on the data set that you're ingesting from one system or multiple systems. There's conditional logic that you can build into it and sub-templating. So as I said, the reason why that organization was able to rebrand is because they had a header and a footer template that sat within marketing, and they had as an example, a legal clause, that's another template, but then there's a master template that refers to those templates and pulls those information in. So you make a change in the marketing template, and it pulls through to all of the documents that literally references that specific template. And that's why they were able to actually migrate so quickly. Then the rules that you can build in there. In a certain agreement, the same clauses, legal clauses, that is applicable to a vehicle and asset finance contract isn't necessarily applicable to a home loan agreement. So you need to be able to know when to show a clause and when a clause doesn't show. And that's just based on the rules. And it's also an if statement rule builder. It's no scripting, no technical information required. It is if this is applicable. If this is a male, include a paternity leave clause. If this is a female, reference the template and pull in the maternity leave clause. Then if it is a male and it's a paternity leave clause, then that other clause needs to fall away, and the numbering needs to be automatically updated, and the formatting needs to be taken care of, which we do. Advanced formatting, I've just spoken about that, so you can literally make the document look and behave the way you want it based on the intelligence that you want to build into the template itself. How is this all managed? So there's a central template repository, as I said, that sits as an overlay in front. You can role-based access control those. You can create folder structures, and that's where all your templates live. It's a central repository, as I mentioned. There's full version control. The whole software dev lifecycle applies. You've got a UAT environment, a dev environment, a prod environment. You can publish templates from the one to the other. You can roll templates back. You've got full version control and audit history on who did what when on which template. Marketing cannot access legal. Legal cannot access sales, as an example. And that's basically just speaks to the template governance as well. By the way, that's also AD integration, all that stuff. Obviously, with the banks, we've had to incorporate that so that people can log in with their AD credentials into the template repository. Then, once you've assembled a document, it needs to be outputted, right? So we can output it in PDF format or DocX or HTML or email or any of that. So typically how that would work if I can give you a real-world example, so there's an email, that very email that I received from the service provider. So the email body is an HTML template that sits in DocFusion. I receive also an SMS, and the contents of the SMS is a template that sits in the DocFusion template repository. The 3 PDF documents that's attached are also generated by DocFusion and attached to the same email and bundled and then sent out, so multiple output formats. As I mentioned already at the beginning, data integration, the pulling and the pushing, we can do both. The rules I've spoken about. Typically, generation happens in 2 ways. It's either an ad hoc process where it is a system that gives an instruction for something to be generated. So somebody did apply for a home loan, so now we have to create X document pack to send to them. So that's an ad hoc generation process. But you've also got batch processing. Now, most banks and insurance companies do batch processes. This particular bank, they focus on high net worth individuals specifically. They have 3 monthly batch runs at the beginning, middle, and end of the month. Millions of statements that's being sent out. Previously, it took them, I think it was just going on 4 days to complete the batch process. When they started using the DocFusion batch processing module, it went down to 3 hours. So for them, it was a massive, massive benefit. The reason for that is because of the troubleshooting capabilities that the batch generation engine gives you. We've got a real-time front end where you can upload, schedule your batches, you can track and trace your batches, monitor in real time, and you can filter after a batch is successfully run, which records have not successfully been delivered, and it's on a record level, it's not on a batch level. So if there was a batch email that was sent out to this gentleman over here and it failed, we can go into that one specifically and check why did it fail, because we provide you with the data, and then you can only rerun that one record. So you don't, in legacy batch systems, you have to rerun the entire batch. So then also in with DocFusion, we've got the automated routing. So this is now, once the document's generated, as I said, you need to send it to a digital signature solution to actually be sent through a workflow and approval and for digital sign-off as an example, which we can do, or it can go to your DMS, or it can go to a self-service portal. Conditional workflow automation. So this is basically just system workflow, so it needs to go from DocFusion to that system, to that system, to that system. So we've got all of that, and then the API integration is important, because if you're going to be that digital overlay, you need to be able to integrate into damn near everything, right? So that's definitely possible on our end. Okay, so real-time data exchange, I'm going to skip. So the customer workflow automation, AI Assist. What we've also now released is our AI engine that's going to sit on top of that. Think about an assistant, like a co-pilot. So now you, as the user of DocFusion, when you're going to be authoring and creating templates, you can now talk to DocFusion the same way that you would another human being. And then DocFusion would do all of this for you. So negates the fact to actually know how to use the software, because you could just literally ask a question, I need a template for this, please integrate a data set from this system, please validate the data for me, and then do a test and give me a preview, and DocFusion will do it all for you. Scalable architecture, as I've mentioned. Obviously, if we're generating 900 million documents a year, we've got to have a scalable architecture for the banks and the insurance organizations. So yeah. So as I said right at the beginning, the benefits that most of our organizations have experienced is obviously customer experience increases. Your reputation, that other bank that I spoke about went, within a year of using DocFusion, they went on their audits to 100% compliance. There was not a single document that was inconsistent between the source system and the document that the customer actually received. Cost reduction. In that bank's commercial property finance division, we saved them 48 million rand a year on printing, paper, courier costs, boxes, and storage, just by automating and digitalizing the process and by using DocFusion from a digital document generation output perspective. So 48 million rand a year, just literally on that component. Risk and compliance, as I mentioned, that bank was 100% compliant within a year of rolling out that tool. You've obviously got the omni-channel marketing component. And then, that's what it means, is what we do and what we're passionate about is to effectively become truly digital and paperless. It's not all the other hoo-ha and, I'm in the cloud, now I'm digital. Like, take the paper out of your organization, then you're digital. So that's it. Just a few of our customers, as I mentioned, just so that I'm not lying. And lastly, we have a stand around the corner here. If you guys want to have any questions or want to chat to us, we also have native integrated technology partnerships with the likes of Signiflow, SMS Flow, and Dynamics. What Signiflow does is it's an alternative to Adobe Sign, DocuSign, whatever. Most of the banks have actually moved away from Adobe Sign to Signiflow. That's due to Signiflow just being a more compliant signature solution. It's also a local provider, proudly South African, same as us, but also international footprint. SMS Flow, if you're sending a lot of bulk communications via SMS out of your customers, whether it's marketing, whether it's transactional, and you're paying industry average of around 17 cents, come talk to us, because we could probably do it for you at 9.5 or 10 cents. So again, if you're sending out millions of SMSs, it's costing 100 million rand a year as a bank, we could probably do it for about 30 and save you 70. And then lastly, the Dynamics component. That's eKYC. Dynamics is a registered credit bureau, so we can give you the same credit reports that the TransUnions and all those guys would do at a fraction of the cost. Identity verification, facial biometrics, business verification, integration into the Department of Home Affairs, integration into CIPC, phone ID and phone scoring to ensure that your customers' telephone numbers and phone data is correct. Collections and recoveries, anti-money laundering, and then the AI OCR component, which we've also found to be quite the banks and the insurance companies specifically, is through AI agents that sit in their call centers. When documents come in, we utilize this AI OCR capability to then do something, instruct the agent, and then automate the process and save a lot of time. But that's me, guys. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to chat to you.